The Ferguson and Gaethje fight, he believes that it's Ferguson. It's Ferguson's fault for getting into the ring and fighting Gaethje. And I came out and said, why is it Ferguson's fault? Because 2 weeks before the fight, when he expected Khabib, because Khabib was here in the United States, decided to fly back to his family 2 weeks before the fight. Why am I not surprised?
Speedy, there's going to be another 3-0.
No, it's not going to be 3-0 because to me, and if it is 3-0, well, then I'm going to argue my point just like I always do. Mm-hmm. And you go into the fight, Ferguson knows that he needs to make the money. He probably knows that the UFC for the last couple of years have really stinged him for fights. Go look how many fights he's fought in the last 4 years. Not many. And yes, he was injured for 8 months, and he did get his knee. He made his knee healthy. He didn't get physical therapy. He did it himself. He trained himself. All that other things. And he believes that they're aliens, okay? Whatever the case is, the guy believes in aliens. But nevertheless, going into the fight, Ferguson went into that fight, and he took that fight knowing on a whim that he's fighting a guy that's a lot more powerful than Khabib. He is a lot more powerful than Khabib. And the fact that he was training for the last 3 or 4 months to fight Khabib. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks before, he's going to take the fight because he's getting full pay. He's not going to, and yes, he's the better fighter. A lot of people thought he was a better fighter.
Are you going to ask them the damn question?
Yes. What did you guys think of the fight? Do you think Ferguson got screwed? Now all of a sudden he's the 5th ranked fighter in his division when he had the opportunity. He was the number 1 contender for the last year and a half. Do you think it's fair that the UFC...
I'll make it even better for you. I'll make it even easier for your argument.
What?
Do you think it was fair to Ferguson that someone who he was prepping to fight bails and then he had to go against Gaethje? Do you think that he was wronged? Do you think Ferguson was wrong?
Well, first of all, he's not wrong because he took the fight because he wanted the money. He wanted the money. And he didn't train against that fighter. So he was going into the fight on a whim because he wanted the money. He's got to pay bills too, man. Of course. Just like everybody else.
That's not
but that's why he took the fight.
That's not the argument.
And he got screwed because now he's never going to get a title shot.
Can we find out what they wanted?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. And Mike, let's start with you, Mike. Go ahead. What do you think, Mike? Do you think it was an injustice?
No, he's a grown-ass man. He's fought his fight, man. Look, you're going to take the fight or not take the fight. How long has he been laid off for with injuries and stuff like that? Just like you said. So he's going to have to step up, take the fight, and understand the shit happened. You know? What's he going to do? Not take the fight? I mean, that's on him, man. He took the fight. He lost the fight. I mean, hopefully he'll claw
it's
crawl
hard.
back up the ladder.
Mike, you know it's hard to claw up the ladder for the UFC. You know it's hard. And you know Dana White don't like him.
But well, that's on him, though, man. He knew better. He took that fight, man. He's his own man. And honestly, it's his manager, too. I mean,
he changed his management team. He changed his management team. He changed his management team.
You need to change it back to.
That tells you something right there, doesn't it?
He changed his management team. He did. And a lot of people have changed their management team, a team in the last couple of weeks, actually. Went to practically the same team and even new agency for endorsements. These guys, I saw Ferguson. Who else? There was a couple of fighters that went to...
Dominance MMA.
Yes.
But let's get now to Kai.
I'm not changing anything.
We're already starting.
I'm not changing anything. That's not one for you. That's not one for you.
That's not one for me?
That's not one for you.
Okay.
He got screwed. You're going to tell me that he fell all the way to number 5 losing that fight? This is the guy that was the number 1 contender.
Mike,
he won 7 straight fights.
Mike, whose fault is it for going into the fight, Mike?
Fights. 7 straight fights, and all of a sudden got kicked off to number 5. Conor McGregor had 1 fight, and he's the number one contender, or number 2 contender,
Mike, once again,
right behind Justin Gaethje.
Can you repeat your answer, Mike?
Give me a break.
Can you repeat your
answer?
Bullshit. Whose fault was
it?
It's
bullshit.
Well,
Ferguson. I can't even get into that. I mean, there's too many politics in fucking fighting, man. The pound-for-pound ranking shit doesn't even matter anymore. It really doesn't.
It does to the UFC.
Argue about that.
It does to the UFC.
It does not. That shit does not matter anymore. I don't give a fuck what they tell you. I don't care what they tell you.
Go look at how they set up the fights. They are looking at rankings. They put the power rankings. They look at the power rankings of each division. That gives you the opportunity to fight. As you win, you move up. How do you drop 5 spaces losing one fight where you only found out you were going to fight this guy 2 weeks before the fight?
It's the UFC ranking system. They can do whatever they want.
Obviously, they could do whatever they want, just like pushing him back to number 5.
Unfortunately, people dropping out last minute and replacement fighters coming in to save the fight is a very common thing that happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It happens with my fighters. Bellator just called me probably on Saturday for a fight for the next Friday, and we were trying to piece it together for the next 3 days prior to it. It wound up falling through on Wednesday for a Friday fight. So last minute fights come all the time. The fighter has a choice. They can either, if they were preparing for another fighter and they want to wait for that fighter to either come back because they had injuries or the fighter called out because they were sick or whatever the reason why the fighter came in, then the fighter has that opportunity to choose to do that. Unfortunately, then you come to the money side. Mm-hmm. They're just not going to get paid. You don't do your job, you don't get paid. So is it fair? I think it's fair because nobody put a gun to his head and forced him to take the fight.
How do you know? How do you know he didn't get? How do you know he didn't get a raise on that?
And I went away for Khabib.
Kai, how do you know he didn't get a raise on that? How do you know he didn't get offered $20,000 extra, $30,000 extra to get in that fight? So obviously you could push him off. Now you look at Dana White. Dana White makes how much did that bout get? That card get? I think that card made $140 million of pay-per-view. How much do these fighters get?
Dana White is always going to get money.
Of course he is.
He's always going to get paid no matter what. He's going to get paid. If this fighter drops out, he'll piece together something to make sure that his bottom line is always going to be there. But when it comes to the fighter, you have to decide on your own personal ranking. If he was preparing for Khabib and he didn't feel that
he was never going to fight Khabib,
what he was preparing for, then you don't take the fight. Unfortunately, if you don't take the fight, you don't get paid. If he thinks his bills are more important than his career and his rankings, then he took the fight, which what he did. If he decides that, no, I want to wait a few months for Khabib to come back, and then we'll do the fight all over again and do it then he'll wait. But unfortunately, you don't get paid. I don't think it was unfair to him that happened because it's not something that was,
It's not unfair that he lost. That's not what I'm saying. It's unfair that he went from number 1 contender to the number 5 contender in one fight. One fight. This guy was 7-0.
Rankings are all over the place.
I know, but it hurts him.
Yeah, they don't have any stepping stone for it. Like number 5 doesn't go against number 4, and then the winner of that goes against number 3, and then the winner of that goes against number 2, and then number 2 go against number 1. They don't put things together like that. They literally rank them kind of like popularity. Okay, we think this match should be this match. Let's see who's going to watch this match and this match together, put them together. And then after whoever wins, let's just put them somewhere over here. I had a fighter that beat the number 1 fighter and then was still ranked underneath the fighter they beat.
Yeah, but that's
like I even went over because it was on a website.
That's a different organization. That's a different organization, Kai. Because if in the UFC you see it, once they lose a fight, they dip. And you don't, and they try to match out the fighters by where they're ranking. Go look at when some of these fighters are fighting.
Actually, that's not always true.
Not always true. Not always true. You're absolutely right. Yeah. It doesn't always happen. But normally, that's how they stake the fights. The big fights, or the main event fights, they kind of put you by the ranking. If you're the number 1 contender, and right now the number 2 contender is fighting the 4 contender to try to move up to the number 2 contender, the number 3 contender will fight the number 1 contender. But all in all, if you're not in that various of 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're not getting a title shot. You're just not. And Ferguson went from 1 to 5. And I'm sorry, it took Ferguson. Look how long it took Ferguson to get to that number 1 contender. He won 7 or 8 fights in a row. 7 or 8 fights in a row to get there. Not even Conor McGregor did have to do that. Conor McGregor had to win one fight, and he's the number 2 contender.
Conor McGregor's his own animal there.
That's fine. That's fine. He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it. Chris, what do you think?
I don't think Conor McGregor deserves his spot in line just because he beat Cowboy Cerrone, who's not even the number 1 contender to go back up there. But when it comes to the number 1 who's going to grease Dana White's pockets the most, he holds that spot for everybody. There's nobody in the UFC right now who won't fight Conor McGregor because they know it's going to be a huge payday. So they fight Conor not because of his ranking and his skill. They fight him because of his money. And he's going to bring that purse and that popularity there. And Conor has earned his way to the top to pick and choose how he wants to match up with
who did he beat? Who did he beat, Kai? Who did he beat besides Jose Aldo? Who did he beat? Who did he beat?
Unfortunately, he beat two champions.
Who? Who?
Dustin Poirier.
Poirier. Oh yeah, Dustin Poirier. Oh, he's a fantastic fighter. Go ahead.
No, but he literally beat two champions. He beat the 145 champion and he beat the 155 champion. So at that particular time, those people were the top dogs in the business. So he did beat them, but unfortunately, it's not saying that he's the best fighter that's out there. Nobody's ever going to say that Conor McGregor is the number one fighter pound for pound ever. But
he was in his division for a while. He was in his.
I'd fight Conor McGregor right now on 2 weeks' notice, just so I can get a couple of mil.
But Kai, he was.
Everybody on this call will fight Conor right now.
Kai, he was the number one.
Some Conor money.
Kai, he was the number one guy at 155 for almost 2 years. He was. He was the number one guy. Nobody else. Khabib, even as undefeated as he was, Ferguson winning all those fights in a row. Conor McGregor was the number one guy in that weight class for 2 years before Nate Diaz choked him out. That's what happened.
In a welterweight fight.
That's fine. But he was. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
You're bringing up Khabib with it, though, too. It's like, who's Khabib's manager? Who's Khabib's manager?
Wasn't his father?
Ali.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Dominance MMA.
Ali's his manager.
Okay.
And money makes the world go round, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ali is friends with Dana. They're all friends with other people overseas, sheiks and shit like that. So Tony Ferguson doesn't fucking matter. In the UFC's eyes, he does not matter. The ranking system does not matter.
The UFC uses the ranking system very similar to the WWE.
Why don't we go look at the fights right now and see where they're ranked when they're fighting tomorrow?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Go look at the fighters right now.
The UFC storyline is very similar. That's what you call it, a storyline. Because a perfect example.
Let me put it to you like this.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's put it like this. You guys all know who Sean Shorty Rock Santella is, right?
Yes.
Everybody knows Sean.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Why the fuck are they letting people in that Shorty has beat and dominated like Blaine Shutt, but not Shorty? They literally told Shorty, we're not taking you, even though he's a number one contender in the U.S. He's number one for years, everywhere. Why would they not let him in? You know why? They don't like him. First, they didn't like his pink hair. Oh, his medicals weren't fucking clear. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. No, it's just because you don't like him. Because you don't think he's going to make you money. So the ranking system is bullshit. When you start letting people in that are like fucking, I don't know, 4 and 5 or 4 and 2 over a guy that's 27 or 29 and 7, that's fucking crazy.
Yes, it is crazy, but if you look at the way they set up the fights, go to UFC card right now, UFC 252. Go look at where they're ranked. They're almost right there with each other. One's going to hop the other guy. They're usually either 3 or 4 positions away from each other. That's how they set it up. You moved Ferguson from 1 to 5. That's like a smack in the face after one fight. And that's it. You know how long it takes a person to get back to where you want to go? He's not even going to get a shot for Gaethje. He's not going to fight Gaethje. He's not fighting Khabib, and he's not fighting Conor.
You know how long
they're going to have to give him 2 or 3 fights before that even happens.
Do you know how long it takes for him to get back up there?
Look at Nate Diaz. Look at how they screwed him.
How much money can he make you? That's how long it takes him to get back up there.
Ferguson is a popular fighter.
Ferguson, unfortunately,
he's not Conor McGregor, but he's a popular fighter.
Unfortunately, when it comes to Ferguson, all right, if you have like the real McCoys, the people that are educated in the sport, yes, Ferguson is a favorite fighter.
Absolutely.
For a commercial value, Ferguson doesn't really have it.
There's only 2 guys, John Jones and Conor McGregor.
Yeah, and they make money.
That's fine. That doesn't mean that they should be ranked.
People, but unfortunately, he's not a household name. Like if I ask any of my staff here who John Jones is, they'll know who he is. If they ask who Conor is, they know who it is. But if I say, hey, do you know who this fighter is, that particular fighter, they're going to have no idea who he is.
Do they watch mixed martial arts?
Yes.
So how do they not know who Ferguson is?
Hey, hold on. Jiminy, who's Tony Ferguson?
He's obviously a martial artist.
Exactly. And she watches MMA with me, and we're going to watch the fights this weekend.
Well, she knows his name. She knows who he is. How could you not?
Yeah, because she heard his name throughout this whole talking. That's
come on. Everybody knows he ran from a bunch of aliens. That's how everybody knows him.